So hi everyone, today in this video we're gonna develop another mental model that can be useful for you. Six mental models are represented much Mario Grass team aggregate is the probability of you getting what you want. And what you want is prosperity, because prosperity to get is need to take actions, and obviously we need to write actions and so obviously for I require what? Having a good ability to process the information that the environment provides to me, but obviously so having some principles, having some type of ways to behave that so are taken from the studies that other ones they have already done, that so seems to be the right choices to be done. And then so you don't need to be exposed with the variance of taking action that you don't know what's going to be so the potential outcomes. And so obviously if you choose the doing actions that are ineffective, it's something that we want. We are in a scarcity our time, and then so obviously we have to enjoy the environment. That's why it's important to accumulate information, to spend time doing it. But then so with that talk, be the mental model that we're going to talk today is the just-in-time failure. So we're going to explore the just-in-time mental model. It's a way to produce that. It's becoming even more so something that could be the practice to deliver for the part of the country, the countries and the companies. But we're gonna see some of the type of things, the bad negative things that comes with adopting this type of way to produce. So why efficiency breeds fragility? It's something that we're gonna explore. It's more general. So exploring what so there's our tendency today to always looking for efficiency, or sometimes so it creates other type of things that as well are negative. So it's basically a trade-off that we tell if you look for every type of action that you do, it follows a type of trade-off. You're doing something in expense of not doing other thing. And obviously so in the coming of the efficiency, you're as well losing something. What's so gonna make you choice is understanding so what you value more, what you're about to hurt, but in comparison so what you're about to lose in doing so specific action. But then so what's the core idea of this economic mental model called the just-in-time failure? So the just-in-time is a production strategy where companies minimize inventory and rely on precise time deliveries. While it cuts costs and boosts efficiency, it creates extreme fragility. A single disruption, natural disaster, pandemic, war can paralyze entire industries. So the just-in-time failure explains why empty shelves, factory shutdowns, and inflation spikes are predictable outcomes of prioritizing lean systems over resilience. But then, so how it works? What's like the just-in-time dream? So the companies like Toyota that they pioneered so this way to manufacture, so to eliminate waste, they develop this type of way to develop their product. So parts arrive exactly when needed with near zero inventory. So we're not gonna accumulate. We're just gonna do when the need is so triggered. It's basically like we kind of first test the demand for a product, and just after we understand precisely what they want, then I'm gonna start the production. Obviously, it relies a lot in me being fast to do it, because obviously if I take that much long, so between the time that they express their demand for something and the time that I'm going to be able to deliver, you're going to pass a long time, and then so obviously it's something that cannot be good for the consumer experience. So the people that adopt just-in-time failure, they have to understand the just-in-time type of way to produce. They have to understand that they have to be quick so to adopt it. But what happens? It's always putting the demand first and just after the production. And what sometimes can happen is that can exist demand, and I can like a specific bottleneck, some policies that are adopted in the country, the tariffs that we're seeing a lot today, that so make it harder than to produce something in the time that probably I was accustomed and I was predicting to do. It's basically like I'm more type of risk to suffer with so certain type of late delivers than I would expect, because I'm kind of depending on future conditions in comparison with the accumulation of stock. So the people are gonna have demand, but I already got so the stock because I already have produced in past. Obviously, it's a trade-off, because in that last type of way to do it, that's the more common one. That's accumulation of inventory. I'm having so the expense of not having to put my risk that I could suffer a bottleneck in the phase of production after so the demand is expressed, and then so obviously I can have the risk to lose the client. I'm preferring to have the money and spending money in inventory rather than so being at risk to not to face so bottlenecks in my phase of production and so lose clients that have expressed demand, but then obviously because I'm not being able to deliver in certain time, then so they don't like it and they so shift for other type of currency. So it's a trade-off as every type of action that you do. Obviously, what's the ideal is the just-in-time because the inventory is a lot of the costs that the companies tend to suffer, mainly the ones that produce in scale, like the big companies. And obviously, so it's what in the perfect scenario that doesn't risk the risks that doesn't exist in certainty is the best one because you always predict what's like the type of time that you need so to produce something, and you know that it's not gonna be different because doesn't exist external factors, the what we call as externalities that so can impact it. But the reality is that doesn't work that way, and then so that's why it tends to happen. Type of thing that comes with just in time type of production, a bit of the fragilities, like the fragility tab. So no buffers, a delayed shipment or factory closure halts production, a hyperglobalization, reliance on distinct suppliers like chips from Taiwan, medicines from India, and cascading collapse. One broken link, like a port strike, triggers shortage, panic buying, and price gouging. What are like the real world examples? Some are more bits like in time they are close to where we are today. The COVID-19 vaccine shortage. So the just-in-time drug manufacturing relied in what? Relied in around like 280 global suppliers. When India banned vaccine exports, production stalled worldwide. Automotive chip crisis, like the car makers cancelled chip orders during COVID, assuming low demand. When sales rebounded, chip makers had shifted capacity to tech firms. The result is so a 2010 billions in lost auto revenue revenue. Suez Canal blockage in the 2021. One stuck ship froze 9.6 billion day in trade, delaying everything from IKEA furniture to PlayStation 5s. At baby formula crisis in 2022, a single contaminated USA factory, the Habit, triggered nationwide shortage because 90% of formula was just in time produced. So why it matters? Inflation, supply chain chaos added 1.5% to USA inflation in 2022, and that's something that happens because if we're not have in stock means that obviously the demand it puts even more pressure in the supply to increase the prices to so control this type of cycles that exist between high demand and low demand. That's something that happens. And I'm not expecting so increasing, spiking that much of the demand for something. And if I have just in demand, I just don't have any stock. And so exists scarcity. And so to make it a balance, I'm just gonna sell what I have at higher prices because it's scarce in comparison with the demand that I have. I still have to expect so to production to happen to get what so is the demand asking for. National security, over reliance on foreign suppliers risks geopolitical blackmail. And as I say, you're relying in the production after the demand happen. And obviously, if you're relying on a lot of factors, higher so is the probability of certain outcomes not getting the one that you expect, because as much more elements are impacting something, less predictable that element is. And then so if the what I take to make a production, I have so in that phase of production a lot of companies that comes from a lot of type of suppliers, so more type of factors I'm exposed, policies from all the different type of countries that suppliers are, so more risk to suffer variance in the time of production of a specific good. And consumer rage, 75% of shoppers abandon brands after stock out. So understand why it matters just time the failure mental model. Solutions is like making a balance between so the efficiency and resiliency, that sometimes if you just prioritize inefficiency we become not resilient. If we just prioritize resilient we're not efficient. So what do we have to do? Making a balance. What could be so potential strategies? Strategic stockpiles, governments and firms must store critical goods like semiconductors, the medicines, so having always the small type of stock, the essential, it's like what they call in finance the reserve that you always gonna have to get. Second will be so regionalized supply chains, build factories closer to consumers. Example is the TSMC's 40 billion USA chip plants. Diversify suppliers, avoid single points of failure because it's important as investments. As I said, more elements are present, so more type of impacts and more type of outcomes I can expect. But if I just rely in one supplier, more risk I have to make this bottleneck. So it's always better to diversify a bit. So it's like a balance. Neither diversify too much, neither just rely in one specific type of element in your chain of value. So avoid single points of failure like the Apple now sources iPhones parts from more than 3 countries in the world. And EA, so artificial intelligence powered forecasting. Use machine learning to predict disruptions like Walmart reduce stockouts by 30% with EA. So they said that the world rules a lot and behaves in terms of patterns. And then so if you have machines that make it and get it, it so make you in a better position to predict better the future. And then so obviously it's positive. That's why technology exists, is to improve our lives. So I expect these videos make you gain insight. I expect it was enough to make you like, to subscribe to the channel, and see other videos that so may trigger your interest. Without much more to say, just thank you and see you in the next one.